Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. I'm Doug Bennett, Acting Director of the New York Tech Alliance and today's host. In a few minutes, Pete Hinojosa, Director of Thought Leadership at Insperity, will share insights intended to help us be better leaders. First, I just want to make sure that everyone can see my screen. Okay, great. Thumbs up. That's good. But before I formally introduce Pete, I'd like to share a few items regarding today's event and the New York Tech Alliance itself. First, please know that we record our events to share the experience with those unable to attend. Recordings are posted on NYTA's YouTube channel and shared through our digital comms channels. For new and past attendees, the New York Tech Alliance is a nonprofit organization serving individuals and businesses in the tech ecosystem. At the heart of our mission is driving access, equity, and inclusion in the New York Tech community to make it the most diverse and dynamic in the world. You can learn more about us and how to engage at nitech.org. A big thanks to our annual sponsors who help make events like this one possible. Each has a presence on our website. You can learn more about each company and how they support our community by going to nitech.org/partners. Special thanks to Insperity, today's event sponsor and presenting company. For any company looking to outsource their HR needs or in need of consultation about how to build an HR infrastructure, I encourage you to connect with the Insperity team at their AirMeet networking table following today's presentation, if you've yet to do so. Let's see, we have a couple of events, upcoming events we'd love for you to attend. Tomorrow, we'll be hosting a fireside chat with Deepali Vyas, co-founder of Fearless. It begins at 12 noon Eastern time. On Tuesday, April 5th, we have our next New York Tech meetup featuring founders in the fintech blockchain space. To learn more and register, you can go to nitech.org/our_events. Let's see, if you have your own event that you'd like to promote, you can post it on our community events page by going to nitech.org/events. And let's see, let's go back one. Let's see, we'll skip that. And let's see, and finally, we love and welcome support to help us produce and deliver our programming. 3 ways you can help include add a donation when you RSVP for one of our virtual events, become an individual supporting or corporate member of New York Tech Alliance, or simply make a small donation. You can do that by going to nitech.org/support_NYTA. Okay, enough about me, or enough of me. Pete Hinojosa is with us today. Pete is Insperity's Director of Thought Leadership. He's a published author, a business owner since 1997. As an educator, he was nominated 6 times as Teacher of the Year, 3 times recognized as an outstanding educator in the nation, voted as the funniest, most enthusiastic, and best teacher at Kingwood High School, Kingwood, Texas. He is one of only 10 in the world to hold a master trainer certification from Personality Insights in the Model of Human Behavior, and was recently awarded the Distinguished Alumni Award from his school district in Humble, Texas. Pete, welcome. Glad you could be with us. Before I turn things over to you, I just want to mention to everyone attending that if you have questions for Pete, you can post them in the chat.
All right.
Welcome, Pete.
Well, thank you, Doug, and thank you, Callie, and thank you, New York Tech Alliance, for having Insperity be a part of your event. We're happy to be here. So let me go ahead and share my screen, and we will get after it. Here we go. All right. Can everybody see the screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right, let's get started. The title was Culture, Connection, and Competency, and what I wanted to do was look at three parts of that. We're going to take a look at culture. We'll look at how change impacts the connection piece, and then we'll talk about the competency of conversations and how we interact with one another on a daily basis. So I wanted to kick it off with y'all just going to have to look at the screen and look at the cartoon that was created. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to let you read it, and then we'll talk about it. I try to read it myself to gauge how long it's going to take. But the reason I put this little cartoon up is because that's what happens in cultures. You've been there for a year, you've been there for 5 years, you've been there for 10 years, and then little things change. You have no idea when it happened. You have no idea who started it, and the next thing you know, you're wearing big hats with like a little cotton ball on the top of it. Okay. What I wanted to share with you is some powerful things as a leader about culture. There's a great book called Under the Hood, Fire Up and Fine Tune Your Employee Culture. The gentleman's name is Stan Slapp, which I just think is an awesome name just in general. So if you find anything by Stan Slapp, go ahead and get it. But I wanted to break this definition down for you and then share a little bit about this so that we can think about how, as a leader, each piece of these things are impacted by the culture. So here we go. It says, the culture is defined by, here it is, your employees' shared belief about the rules of survival and emotional prosperity. And so you've got a group of people that have and create these beliefs about the rules of survival. And when people interact with you, you're going to be surprised because they've created these beliefs way before they've ever stepped into your company. And I'm going to keep going on that. And it says an employee culture exists. That's powerful. An employee culture exists. Why? To protect itself. And how do they protect themselves? They do it by constantly gathering information. And the first question I would ask you is, where does an employee ever gather information about your culture before they ever even start with your company? One of the ways that I've said for business owners to remember how powerful culture is, it's the story your company tells. So it's the story your company tells through the poster you put up on the wall. That's your organizational culture. So when you sit down with a consultant, or you sit down with your leadership team, or you sit down with a group of people, and all of a sudden you say, you know what, we have to have a mission, we have to have a vision, we have to have these values. And right now, the research is showing that if you're looking at any of the newer generations, Gen Z, the millennials, they're all asking to see what your values are. They want to see them on your website. They want to know what they're walking into. And if you think of it that way, that's your organizational culture. That opportunity you have to put out into the public what you believe to be true about your values. That's the story you want to tell through your website, through your community service, through your initiatives, all of those things on how you interact with people. That's, if you keep it simple, that's just the poster. And then the second piece is the leaders that you hire that are implementing or putting the strategy of your values and missions together on a daily basis. So you've got a organizational culture out here. It's a philosophy. You've got your leadership culture, which is trying to implement in which you said was super important about your values. And then you have your employees living within it. Remember what I just said a second ago. An employee culture exists to protect itself, and it's an information gathering organism. And here's the best part, designed to assure its own survival. So the number one job of your employees is to make sure they survive. Woo! That's a little scary right there. So they get together and then they try to gather information, and they're looking at your leaders and asking these simple questions. If you believe those values are true, am I living within those values on a daily basis? And every person in your company, okay, somebody just put only survival. So if is that a question, or is that just a thought process? So only survival. I wonder. So Timothy, if that's Timothy, just add a little bit to that and then point me in the right direction. What do we hope for? Okay, I'm going to keep going, and I hope, Timothy, I answer your question as I say this. What that really means when I say the word survival, and what Stan Slapp discovered, was one of the things we already know from every human being, is that we like to feel safe. So think of survival as a different word. Think of it as the word feeling safe. When you, what about our aspiration values? Yeah, those are all good too. All the aspirational values are there, but the culture starts with first protecting itself. And then if they feel safe enough, they'll be able to move towards the aspirational values. Yeah, boy, it's interesting to have a conversation over chat. That's fun. All right, but safety also provides the opportunity to grow and flourish. Yeah, absolutely. So let's hang there for a second and let's go through that process again. You have a group of employees. They're gathering information, and as they're gathering information, it's from the stories that they see. Well, if you want to talk about it afterwards, I'm happy to talk to you about it. But according to Stan Slapp's definition and according to just an easy way to think about it, yes, it starts with safety. And then from there, people grow from that. So if you want to start with safety and add in the other aspirational values, you can, but start with a foundation. So as a leader, just think of it that way. You have a foundational group of human beings that protect your people either by the way they interact with them or the way they don't. And then the more they feel safe, the more they trust you, the more they feel as though, and I'm going to say your aspirational values a little differently. I'm going to say it this way. The more they trust that, the more you'll have the opportunity to interact effectively with your gifts and strengths. So let's call those aspirational values gifts and strengths, and then I'll keep going, and then we'll see if it makes sense. Okay, so we got an employee culture. They're interacting with one another. They are looking for opportunities to interact with leadership. And then I want to just say it this way, is that the leaders are always trying to push everything forward and then help the company move in a future direction. And then the employees are looking at whatever we did last as leaders. So let's start with that idea, and then let's kind of move from there, because what I wanted to share with you is that culture is not just personnel, it's personal. And I just saw this in a Great Resignation series. And one of the things they talked about was all of these areas and why people were leaving. And here they are. And if I made a case for it, most of these are personal. They're not task driven. They're not process driven. They're looking at a human being, and that human being doesn't feel valued, doesn't feel as though they can do what they need to do on a daily basis. They don't feel appreciated. So ultimately, because of that, they try to go to areas in which they feel more safe, or they feel as though they can thrive. And so here's some of them. So the relationship with their manager, that's typically very personal. Feeling undervalued or unappreciated, very personal. Being taken for granted. I've worked here for 10 years. Nobody listens. The corporate culture in general. We can go and think about it from that direction. Lack of engagement. Gallup talks about it all the time. Are you engaged, disengaged, or actively disengaged? By the time a person gets actively disengaged, now you got a whole nother problem, because they're actually working for you and then ultimately sabotaging your company, because they are the ones telling the story on a daily basis on how they don't feel safe. They don't feel as though they're going to make it. They feel at any moment they're not going to get a promotion, or they're giving feedback and people aren't listening. And so just look at these and ask yourself those questions about most of the things people are struggling with are personal, and they're not necessarily task oriented. All right. They're unhappy at work. Now, I would make a case for unfair compensation as very personnel issue. But if you notice what it says at the end, same jobs, but different salaries, that goes back to the personal issue. All of a sudden, I'm looking at this person saying, well, I'm doing the same job and I'm not getting the same pay. They don't appreciate me the same way they appreciate somebody else. Now, that one for sure is personnel issues. Those are task-driven, poor processes and systems. If you're going to, as a leader, give any type of surveys, culture surveys to check and see how people want to return to work, anything like that, then one of the things people are saying is you're asking for all of this information, but when you take my feedback, no results come from it. Again, it becomes very personal. People are like, you're doing a survey, you're asking for my information, but it doesn't ever seem you do anything with this feedback. So why in the world do I do any of these kind of things? Feeling burned out, very personal. lack of intellectual stimulation. Hopefully today we'll get a little intellectual stimulation from some information and make you think. Little career growth, no vertical or horizontal. And finally, poor mental health and personal reasons. So out of these 14 different areas, one of the things that I started to notice is that most of the issues are personal. They're not personnel issues. They're not a bad system or a bad process. Now, you put a bad system and a bad process together, and it will become personal. Someone will say, you know, I have to live in this environment on a daily basis, and nobody's paying attention that this is costing us customers. This is costing us time, efficiencies, all of those things. All right. So I just wanted to show you that. That was a webinar that I saw about 3 weeks ago. And I was just looking at why people leave. Okay. A couple of fun ones here. Don't be silly. The staff loves that we brought in some change management consultants, because one of the things I want to share with you is how change impacts what we do. And then this one's my favorite, because there's all these people sitting around the table and it says, I'm just concerned that if we embrace change this one time, change might get the wrong idea and mistake it for some kind of long-term commitment. I just let that sit in. I think that's good stuff. All right. So you've got culture, this opportunity for people to work in your environment. And just think of culture, if you want to keep it simple, as the story that your people tell. Your poster tells one story. Your leaders are interacting with that story and either making it better or making it worse. And the employees are the people that live within that story. And then they either hire and recruit for you well because they love the culture that they're in, or they tell a really negative story, not only about the leaders, not only about the people they work with, but also about the culture and what they're in. Okay. All right. So now, why is change so crucial? I want to show you a couple of things. And if you have something to write with, if you're there sitting at your desk or wherever you are in virtual world, go ahead and write a couple of things down. I'm going to give you 5 areas that when change occurs that you can pay attention to, because this is what people are looking for when they're dealing with like return to work, the pandemic. How are you going to keep me safe through all these different areas? Am I going to be able to keep my job? What's this mean about me? Okay, so here they are. Number 1, I don't have this on a slide. I just need you to write it down. Number 1, information. Now, if somebody wants to on chat, just put these down as I say them, and that way everybody can see them. That'd be great. So the first one is information. People are always looking for information when things are changing. When I use this formula, and by the way, this formula is a formula that I created right after the pandemic to try to help leaders understand what they were dealing with. So the first one's information. The second one is personal. What's this have to do with me? How's this going to impact me, my family, my position? What does this mean about my career? So first, I want to know information, because the worst thing that people deal with when it comes to change is the unknown. So information, personal. The next is implementation. How am I going to implement this strategy? So by the way, the next time you work in a change mode in your company, you can just think through these things. So do I have the right information for them? How can I make that known? How is this going to impact you personally? How are we going to implement this new strategy of hybrid work or managing hybridly? Next, impact. How are we going to measure it? So how is it going to impact the people around us? And then how are we going to be measured? How are we going to be held accountable to it? And then finally, if we see things aren't working during this change, how are we going to refine it? So refinement is the 5th one. Okay. So let me share with you, with that in mind, those are the things people are asking. Yes, sir.
I'm the guy posting on the chat the 5 items, and I want to make sure I got personal right. Is it personal or personnel?
Personal. You got it right.
Okay.
Yeah, personal. So if you look at this this formula, what I did was I noticed that if this is true, if people want to feel safe in an environment, if you said, okay, now it's time to return to work, and then someone looks at you and says, wait a minute, how are you going to protect us? What is the company doing to think about us? So when we come back to work, how have you set up your environment to keep us safe? Then what happens during any type of change is a level of uncertainty. And so one of the things that I wanted y'all to pay attention to is you will multiply uncertainty with the more unknown and the more that's undetermined. And then here's the balance point. Remember, I talked to you at the very beginning, I shared this idea that there is a stability factor. It's called your values. And those values actually help during uncertainty. Now, if you remove out that safety, you remove out the stability factor, the values, the mission, how you've treated people over time, then all you have is somebody trusting their gut to see if they can follow you or not. Now, I said it earlier. I'm going to try to say it again a little bit better. Leaders' jobs are always to push every organization forward. New goal, new mission. What are we doing this quarter? What are we doing this year? What are we doing in the next 3 years? What are we doing in the next 5 years? That's what leaders do every day. This is how we're going to change this. This is who we're moving up. This is why we're changing the organization. Companies are doing this every single day, and that creates uncertainty. That creates change. And so then people start going back and trying to gather information and ask themselves, am I okay? If that boss now becomes the leader of this company compared to the one I was used to, what does that mean? And now they start asking these questions. What's the unknown? What information do I need to know? What expectations do I need to know now compared to what I had before? Because I feel completely unsafe in this new environment. And who is the first person that they typically talk to when they don't feel safe? They go and talk to other employees. As a matter of fact, just for fun, just for a little sense of humor, you can have the best onboarding. You can talk about all of your values. You can show them your poster. You can put them on your desk. You can do all of those things and spend a week talking about how you're going to onboard them professionally. And then this is the fun part. And the first person on that team that takes them out to lunch and shares with them about what the real culture is, that is the person that's going to share what they believe your story is. So yeah, you can take all that, you can move that to the side, but here's the real way people treat you here. Here's the real thing you need to know. So that's really the crucial part about being a leader and understanding what's going on, is that you've got these changes that are occurring. You've got this culture that people are living in. And then ultimately, how do we make it so that people want to move forward? Well, that's through your values. So you've got the unknown, you've got the undetermined, and then finally that creates more uncertainty. But if you can find a way to go back and put your values in order and then live according to those values, people will then trust it. I'm going to say it better. Here we go. If you're a leader and you say we're moving forward, they're not paying attention to what you're saying moving forward. They're looking at it. They understand it. They get that that's a goal. They get that we're supposed to be doing that this year. But you can literally have one leader say that and another leader say it, and one group will follow one leader and one group will go, oh, this is going to be a disaster if we do this change. Now, the question is why? Because over time, one leader has lived by and been consistent with their values and how they've treated people during change. And then on the other side, that other person has not. And so you're sitting there going back and forth watching these two things. So just remember this, as a leader, you're trying to go forward and your people are looking backwards at how you treated them the last time and then asking themselves the question, can I go forward this time with you? And if the answer is yes, they've been consistent. Yes, they always do the same thing. Yes, that's who they are. That's who we've been. That's who we'll always be. Then they'll follow you going forward. Okay. All right. Hope that little thought process helped you a little bit, because this is a critical part. That's why companies need those values, need those things to help create that stability during change. All right. The last piece is the DNA of conversations. I was speaking to a group yesterday, and one of them, I was talking to them about this idea of, let's go back for a second, about this idea of explaining the unknown so it decreases uncertainty. And one of the ladies told me, she said, well, I like to share a lot of information, a lot of information, so that I decrease the chance of people feeling as though they don't know what's expected of them. Now, I wish I could see your faces as I say this, but here we go. When she said that, that sounded perfectly reasonable. And to her, she literally meant it. As a leader, I like to share a lot of information with my people so they feel really comfortable that we're moving forward. And all of y'all would probably say, yeah, you just said that. You just said over here that if you can give them the right information and the right expectations, And then you do that and you tell them how long, how often, and you do that according to your values, you should be really good. Yep, that would be true. And now I'm going to tell you about human beings, because human beings are fickle. Because the exact same human being that just said that, watch this, they'll say this, I like to share a lot of information. Now you might add the word ad nauseum, too many details, too much information. And then what do you have in a group of human beings sitting there, and that person's been there for 10 years, and then their thought process is, congratulations, you've overshared. That's too much information. I've been here for 10 years. Nothing's changed. Nothing's going to be different. Why are you sharing so much information? Just get to the point. Okay. I hope y'all are with me. Because in the exact same moment where someone's personality is moving into this situation as a leader, they believe beyond a shadow of a doubt by sharing a lot of information, they're doing their very best. And the answer is they are. They are. But the problem is you got another human being that's looking at it saying, why are you sharing so much? That's why it's so tough. We have a group of people over there going, that's too much information. I've been here forever. Cut it out. Just get to the point. Tell me what I need to do. I don't care what everybody else needs to do. I didn't need to hear the whole plan. Just tell me what I need to do. And so that exact person that's trying to create safety is creating an issue with another person because they feel as they're being talked down to. Oh, so you think I'm stupid? Is that why you shared that much information with me? Is that what's going on here? Now, then you got another person, ready? Same instance. Well, I'm not going to share any information. Well, why wouldn't you share any information? Well, because I like to be in the know and I don't like other people to be in the know. That way I can be in charge and I'll just share a little information at a time. Well, what does that create? That creates a whole different level. So for the person that needs the information, they feel as though you're hiding something from them. Yeah. And there is why we're going to talk about that. It says you can't please everyone all the time. And so here's what I want to share with you is that the more you understand the human being and the conversations that you're having, the more as leaders, we don't sit there and get bent out of shape when these little things happen. You'll understand that one person loves to share more information. And actually, that's their strength and gift. You'll understand that a different person doesn't necessarily need to hear all that information. They need the key things to move forward. But we will have the work. Remember, we're talking about culture, change, and then finally conversations. And so as we do these conversations, there's 3 parts that I wanted to share with you that will help you understand this dynamic of why people will get so worked up when all you're trying to do is help them move forward. All right, here we go. So here's the D. The decision has been made. So what that means is, and I wish I could see your faces so that we could have a conversation about this. But if I said that to you, you don't have to put it in chat. If you want to, that's okay. But if I said to you, people walk around all the time with a decision that's already been made. They think in their mind, this is my thought, this is my belief, this is the way I perceive the world, this is why people are doing things. So we walk around with this decision inside of it's already been made. So remember what we're trying to do here is we're trying to find a prescription. So when we're talking to people, that we help them feel understood and valued. And when they feel understood and valued, they'll feel safe. They'll use all of their gifts for us and all those good things. So we've got a culture over here, just to recap, we got a culture over here where people want to tell a great story about you, your interaction, the leadership. We've got change that's occurring all of the time. And now we're trying to interact and explain change to people, help people move forward. And then the last piece is we have these conversations that we're having with human beings, and we're wondering why certain people are accepting them and other people aren't. So we walk around with this idea, every one of us, leaders and everybody that you work with, walks around with a decision has been made. That's the D of DNA. The second piece is, though, new information is available. So within any group, new information is available. You know, one of the things that I thought was really interesting, and so again, I've been doing this a really long time, and I taught high school for 20 years. And quite honestly, if you paid too close attention to me, I probably would get uncomfortable because, you know, I taught for so long that if people are texting all that other stuff, you know, they just do what they needed to do. But it was really powerful. I want to share this with you because this is not a bad thing, what happened. If you look at the interaction that we had a second ago where I was trying to explain a principle about culture. And then I think it was Timothy. I think it was. Timothy wanted to ask a clarifying question. I believe that's what he was trying to do. I don't ever take these things personally. I'm trying to share from a vantage point of why cultures exist, and this one piece of culture, which is how people stay safe. And then what happens naturally is I'm trying to figure this out through a chat. I'm not worked up. I'm okay. But if we're not careful in a normal environment like this, if this was in an environment, and if I could see him, it would be even better, because that way I could see what he was asking and his body language and all these other things, and then I could fine tune it. But this is exactly what I'm talking about. We have an opportunity to learn with one another. The decision has been made. I had made a thought about safety and culture and change, and that I'm sharing this with you today. I guess Timothy is thinking about this idea of aspirational values. That's great. And this is the best part of what I'm teaching you today. The actual idea that he has new information that I might not be privy to, that I'm sharing from a piece of information that I believe can really help y'all, doesn't hurt me at all. As a matter of fact, it's actually encouraging. In that moment, when he shared new information, that allows me, ready, to ask questions, to ask for input, to adjust, to take action. The worst thing I could possibly do is get upset that somebody on a virtual conference was trying to find out and clarify for themselves how to be the very best that they could be. That's the whole reason we do it. That's the whole reason I'm teaching this today, is that there's always going to be an interaction between two people. I have one decision that I believe is going to be helpful. He has other information he believes it's going to be helpful. And then we interact with one another. And that's what you're doing every time you have a conversation with another human being. I've made a decision. Someone else has made a decision. New information's available. And right there, if we can't handle how we know ourselves and choose ourselves and give of ourselves, that's where conflict is for sure. And that's where people don't feel safe. So,
so Pete, you what you're, if I'm hearing you right, you're saying that a leader needs to broaden their perspective in order to be as effective as possible.
Oh my gosh! If we can't do that, this is exactly why in a meeting, if we're not careful as leaders, we step up and we already have a decision that's been made. This is what we're doing, and we're not even. We're going to have a discussion, but everybody in the group already knows there's no discussion. That leader's already made the decision. They're already moving forward that way. And then, remember what I said? And all the people are looking backwards at how they handled things the last time, and they know right then, not a chance. Even if I said something out loud during this meeting, it ain't going to happen. So that's why there's always a meeting after the meeting. Because that's where people start talking about, did they even think about this? I was going to say something, but I didn't. Quite honestly, you guys, I'm actually excited that somebody challenged what I said. That just opened up the opportunity for us to learn this together.
You also, I'm sorry, you just pointed out something about shyness that exists, and people want to be expressive, but a lot of people are shy, and that's why they have the after meetings to have the real conversations.
Now, I will tell you this, and this is just from my background in the model of human behavior. The reason often that people that are more introverted don't share is because they've learned the rules of a meeting. And the rules of the meeting are, if somebody's strong, or somebody has already set up the rules, like if you say something and challenge me during this meeting, I'm going to put you in your place. And so that automatically creates an environment, a culture in which people don't feel safe to speak up or ask questions or add value or any of those things. And so this is the whole reason why I'm sharing this with you today, is that we walk around all the time with our decisions that have been made. But my goodness, there are strengths and gifts and talents all around us. Hopefully you've hired them. And then once those people speak up, all the new information is available to you, new ways of thinking about them. I can assure you right now, as I go back and look at this and ask myself that question, I'm going to go back and restudy and think about exactly what he asked me. How do aspirational values come into play? How do the values just in general come into play when people feel safe or not. Okay. So anyway, I just love it. I'm very grateful that we got to do this way, because then you get to see this in real life, and then you get to see someone like me that has been doing it for a long time. It's okay. I'm here to help. I taught biology, I taught chemistry, I taught physics, I taught biology AP, and I did that for 20 years of my life. And 14-year-olds would literally raise their hand and they would say, well, Mr. Russell, I don't understand what you're saying. That doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand what an enzyme is. Well, then I would tell them, it's a biological catalyst that speeds up the rate of reaction, but it's not used up in the reaction, so it can be used again and again. Yeah, I know. You told me the definition. I don't understand what that means. I had one 14-year-old kid in the middle of saying that definition. I'd been teaching it for 5 or 6 years, and we were just starting the process of enzymes. He raised his hand and said, well, so are they infinite? Do you know it took me literally 3 colleges to go find that answer for him? I was like, what? I didn't even understand the question when the young man asked me it. Are they infinite? And I had to go track down and go back to the University of Texas and ask a professor emeritus, hey, can you tell me what in the world this means? At that time in the 1990s, the best scientists in the world only knew part of what a 14-year-old was asking me. See, here's the deal. My first year, though, when I started teaching, a kid would raise their hand, and then I felt embarrassed. I felt threatened. Do you even have a degree? Was it an accredited college? I mean, how dumb are you? Now, if you take that mentality as that I'm supposed to be the only person that knows everything, and then someone raises their hand or someone tries to interject, you're going to create a lot of conflict. And so here's 3 things really quick. If you want to write them down again, Doug, here they are. Know yourself, choose yourself, and then finally give of yourself. So you got to know yourself well enough. Know yourself, choose yourself, and then give of yourself. What we're talking about today, guys and ladies, is that we're talking about this idea that we live in a culture of human beings all the time that ultimately want to use their strengths and gifts, or why did we hire them? And then we create a lot of change because we're always trying to move things forward. So how do we create a stability point? Well, this is the answer. We have an opportunity here to walk into our interactions with human beings, knowing what we've made a decision, knowing new information is available, and then finally, yeah, I definitely will. I'll explain giving yourself. And then finally asking those questions. So know yourself is self-awareness. Choose yourself. Ready? Here we go. Thank you so much. I'll do it right now for you, William. You have two opportunities when someone interacts with you. You can either react or you can respond. When you react, it's emotional and you meet your own need. When you respond, it's also emotional, same emotion, same feeling. The only difference now is you take a breath, everybody. Everybody takes a breath, and now it reroutes away from the amygdala to the frontal cortex. You don't have to know all that. It reroutes to a brain of the front part of your brain that helps you make a decision. And then you ultimately meet the other person's need. Okay. So know yourself, self-awareness, choose yourself. Am I going to react or respond? Give of yourself. Am I going to be an influencer or a controller? Am I going to be a person that's empathetic, or am I going to be a person that, takes it out on you? So the give of yourself is the final action that you decide to be. Okay. All right. So we got react or respond in this process. So we got react, emotion, and then we meet our need. Respond, emotion. Everybody take a breath. And as we take a breath in any conflict, we then have the opportunity. And by the way, the original research that I did in EQ with a company called 6 Seconds out of California, that's what they recommended. About 6 seconds to really have a better thought. Some of us, we need more than 6 seconds. We need 6 minutes. Some of us need 6 hours, and some of us need to wait the next day. Some of us need to never make that decision and say it out loud. Some of us need to really take a deep breath and go, I could probably handle this better. All right. So here's react. There's 2 ways that we react when we're having a conversation. In other words, somebody's challenged you, somebody's in a meeting, the decision's been made, but new information's available, but we won't ever get to new information because we're not going to ask questions. We're not going to ask for input. We're not going to adjust. We're not going to adapt, because in that moment, we're going to struggle because we think we're being threatened. So fear takes us away. Anger takes us toward and against that person. Oh, wait, let me go back and show you this so you can see it. Y'all see this really quick? You're going to have a feeling, and instead of taking a breath and having a thought, you're going to go right from feeling over to action. Now, the choose yourself is right there. I'm about to choose how I'm about to act, give of myself when I make the decision in my mind. And if it's a reactionary fight or flight, it's going to jump right over thought and go right over to protecting me. So I'm either going to try to get away from you.
Pete?
Are we still good?
We are. Looks like we lost you there for a moment.
Oh, okay.
So if you want to reshare your screen, can everybody give a thumbs up if you can still hear us? And okay, excellent. There we go. You saw your screen from up. There we go.
I'm trying to get that screen back up.
Okay, there we go. We're back on track.
Okay. Sorry about that, you guys.
No worries.
So again, if this was probably my first time to ever do something, now we got technical difficulties. You know, think about all those issues that you have to go through, and then as a leader, something like this happens, and if you're not careful, you'll start to worry about you. You'll start to worry about that. For right now, I'm not super worried. I apologize that it didn't go, that I lost my technology. But again, instead of getting worked up about it, then what do? Take my breath. And then that way we can keep moving forward. Okay. So as we look at this next piece, react, there's a couple of ways people react with fear or anger. They withdraw, they try to get away, they try to avoid, they get overwhelmed. They give you the silent treatment, a little passive opportunity there. They shut down. They become overly agreeable. Well, if that's your decision, then I guess that's just the decision. They shift blame. That wasn't me. They change the subject. They just decide, just in general, I'm not participating. Okay, those are all the fear things that you'll see in a group. Anger. They'll move towards you and against you. They'll become over controlling. This is the only way we're going to do it. I've worked here for 10 years. I'm the boss. I don't care. They become aggressive. I've seen people slam the table, raise their voice, become incredibly aggressive in those moments because they want people to understand you're not going to tell me what to do. I don't care. This is my decision. It's been made. No new information is available. Winning. I got to win at all costs. It's not a conversation. It's a debate, and there must be a winner and there must be a loser. I'm going to argue with you, and when I argue with you, it creates a lot of people that feel unsafe. The difference in personalities is really powerful here too, because these moments that we create, this is something I learned as a presenter, and especially when it's live. However I treat one person in an audience is how everyone else now concludes I'm going to treat everybody in that audience. And so however you treat somebody on your team, remember what I said? The best conversations are the conversations your people are having about or not. And then
Okay. Sorry about that, everyone. It happens from time to time when you're live. So let's.
so sorry.
No worries, Pete. I was just saying it happens from time to time when we're live, and we have to roll with the unexpected, right?
I guess so. Come on. Come on. We can do it. I promise. Hopefully everybody can hear me as I'm saying that. Just, oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm not, because I'm not.
You know, as we.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry. There we go.
Just one second. We're going to lose the crew.
Okay. Here we go.
Are we sure?
You're back on screen, and well,
No matter what happens here, hopefully, no, I can't get my screen to share. So,
it's sharing now.
oh, it is?
Yes. So it's coming in and out. Is that
No. Yeah, it just won't. It won't hold. I'm
it
doing
won't hold?
Yeah, I'm pushing it, but it's just not allowing the presentation yet. So can y'all see it at all?
Yes.
Okay. So y'all can see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. So let's move really quick and let's see if I can get some questions and things like that. Maybe that'll help. So the other side of reacting, everybody give me a thumbs up really fast so I can feel like I'm at least you can hear me. Everybody thumbs up? Good? Anybody?
Yep, we're good.
Okay, good.
We get several thumbs up.
Okay, great. All right, so if we're not reacting, we're learning how to respond. And the only difference between responding than reacting is you have that same emotion, you have that same interaction with the person. Now you've taken a breath, you've rerouted it to a thought process, and then now you can give of yourself completely different. So you know yourself, you're self-aware, you choose the better thought process here, you meet the other person's need in that moment. And when I say meet the other person's need, I simply mean listen to what they're asking. What's the information they have available that you might not have? What perspective are they coming from? And then ultimately you can ask questions, adapt, adjust. And then as we look at that, instead of fear and anger going away or toward and against somebody, love, the other emotion, not the love, the emotion, love the behavior, goes toward and influences people positively. And then here's some examples of it. We're listening better. We recognize people. Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thanks for your input. We're patient. We have to show a lot of patience when we believe we have one thought and somebody's asking us to clarify it or add value to it or those type of things. We have to show a lot of patience. Empathetic. We see from their perspective. We respect and honor that person for what they're saying and what they're doing. Each one of these things creates that moment of safety so that people can speak up during a meeting, after the meeting, all of those things. Seek to understand, value their strengths and gifts, learn from others, collaborate, encourage differences. So even in DE&I, diversity, equity, inclusion, you're looking for that opportunity to encourage all these differences so that people can share their experience, their culture, their values, their thought process, their beliefs, the books that they've read, the insights they have, all those things. Okay. So that's the difference between react and respond. And then I want to say this to y'all really fast, because I think when I do these things, people believe that, well, oh my gosh, so I've got to meet people's needs all the time, right? I'm going to give you a little hint. You're already doing it. You already do it really, really well. You're already superb at influence. Most people don't realize this. The people you are superb at influence with are the people that you are already looking to either be a prospect, a customer, or / client. You already know how to do all of these things and you do them really well. And what I'm going to challenge you to think about is this, is that we tend to do empathy and patience and answer questions and, do great opportunities where we're listening differently and recognizing, what our customers need. You're already doing all of these things really well. You're doing less with the people you lead. And if you're not careful, it's non-existent with the people you say you love. That's what I found over time, is that the complete stranger will get my undivided attention and patience because they're a prospect, they're a client. Ooh, man, I'm really good at this. I listen, I ask great questions, I meet their needs. They said that process doesn't work, so I fix it. Okay. Then the people that I work with, man, I pay you, do what you're supposed to. No questions. What are you doing? So now we get a little less patient. And by the time we get home, it's like, no, dad's tired now. Forget it. No, I'm not answering that. Just do what I told you. I'm not having this conversation with you. By the time we get to the people we say we love the most, that we're supposed to be influencing the most, we've almost forgot all of these principles in which we use every single day with complete strangers. So I'm not challenging you on something that's super hard. I'm challenging you on something that you already do that maybe you forgot that you're doing naturally. You're just doing it with strangers. You're doing it with clients and prospects. And so I'm just encouraging you to think about this same process with the people that you lead, and then finally, most importantly, with the people you love. Okay. All right. So that's it. Those are the key areas. We're supposed to end at 12 o'clock, correct, Doug?
Yes. So
I'm gonna
let's see
I'm gonna wrap this up. Is that okay? I'm gonna wrap this up with these core values, and then
yeah. Go ahead.
if we have any questions, we'll go from there. So
Okay.
what we've thought about so far is this. I hope this makes sense. We had an opportunity to look at culture, and we're saying that people want to feel safe, and they're gathering information. And if they can't gather the information from you, they'll gather it from wherever they can, and then they'll tell a story about this. The more change that occurs, the more information they're going to need, and the more stability they're going to need from your values of how you've treated them before. So then I moved into, well, how do we do that? How do we create a safe environment? Well, you can react with fear or anger and repel human beings, or you can respond with influence and allow people to know that even though that decision was yours in the beginning, if new information is available, I'm willing to ask questions, adjust, adapt, and work with you completely differently. That's very prescriptive, that what I just shared with you. These are some of the preventative things that I do every single day as a leader. And you guys don't know my background, that's okay. But as a sales leadership development director for Insperity, I've worked with 115 of our managers. So they would go through a 3 to 6 month program with me. So I've had over 100 direct reports over this 10-year period. And that's a lot. They don't report to me all year. They report to me for a 6-month period. And then I turn them over to run their offices. So we go through all this information. So one of the ways that I make sure that I have to build value very quickly and trust very quickly with people is I've only got 3 months. I don't have years to do this with them and then build my credibility. I've got to do it pretty quick. So let me show you the 6 things that I do. All right. Number one is I always use the values as my starting point. And if you want to do this activity with your people, do it. Sit down and ask them, if you have a set of core values, what does that look like to you? What does that sound like to you? What does that feel like to you? You're going to be surprised that each person sees respect and goals and innovation and accountability and contributing to the community and commitment. They're going to have their own way that they say it looks like to them, sounds like them, and feels like to them. That's a great opening opportunity for you as a leader to start creating trust, because you'll know this is how I experience respect as a human being. This is what I believe integrity looks like, sounds like, and feels like. That is great information for us as leaders to know how to better interact with our people and build trust. Right? Second, you can ask, what's your favorite movie and all that good stuff. But what I try to do is understand the human beings that I'm working with. And so here's some of the questions that I ask. What motivates you? What demotivates you? What stresses you out? What makes you smile? How do you like to solve problems? This is a big one. We just talked about this a second ago. Somebody mentioned it. There are people that solve problems by openly speaking out and debating. There are other people that just solve problems by just talking out loud. They get infinitely smarter the longer they speak. There are other people that think about it and they solve problems by reflecting internally, and they reflect on the relationship and how it's going to impact people. And there are finally people that reflect internally, and as they're reflecting, they solve problems by creating a process and a plan. And now those 4 human beings have to be in a meeting together. And one says, well, let's have a good argument. And the opposite personality is going like this. Already, I don't want to participate. I don't want to argue about it. I want to understand how you feel and how that department's not being left out and all these other things. And so they're trying to, reflect and build a team. The other person saying, I don't care about that team. It has nothing to do with us. Move forward. And so all of the things that we're doing and how we solve problems, you should know as a leader, because in that moment, that opportunity to work with your people, talk to them differently, create an environment that they feel safe. There are going to be people that won't speak up during your meeting. That's okay. Allow them to reflect and then come back and share with you later, one-on-one. Now, the better the trust, the better the environment, everybody will share, including introverts. But you've got to create that environment so that they feel safe to do it. Okay. So what are your greatest strengths? What's your preferred medium of communication? You like text? Do you like email? Do you like to do Zoom meetings? What's an ideal environment for you to do your job? Okay. Is it at home? Is it in a cubicle? Is it in an office? Is it next to a window? I don't know. What's the first question you would ask if I handed you a task or project? I just like to get to know my people so I can understand how they like to interact and do things. Because feedback is real, last couple of things. The reason I always tell my people my feedback story is I want them to know why I'm giving them feedback. So I do something called a feedback story where I say, I'm like the air traffic controller. My whole job is to make sure from point A to point B, you don't ever go into the ocean or hit a mountain. I am never trying to give you feedback to cause you to lose your dignity. I'm not going to pull you into my office and give you feedback and have you feel as though somehow I'm beating you up. My whole job is to set a goal, and then you and I work on a goal together. And if I see that other influences are impacting your ability to get to a goal, I'm going to share that with you. That might be a mountain coming. You might be interacting with another department ineffectively, or you might not understand that leader over there doesn't like that type of stuff, and this other leader over there likes this type of stuff. And so if you interact with them and I find out, I'm going to do my best to give you that feedback. But my whole job is to get you from point A to point B like an air traffic controller. I'm not trying to wreck your plane. I'm trying to get your plane successfully from point A to point B. Come up with your own feedback story. You don't have to say it that way. You can create it any way you want. I'm here to coach and support and then delegate when you're autonomous. Okay. A couple of interesting things. This is from a book on servant leadership, and this was a great little thought process. Whatever your intentions are, plus your actions will equal trust. Whatever your poster says, putting into action, and the people see it, and it's consistent, will create trust. Remember what I said? Your team is looking at the last thing you did, not your last best intention. Whenever you're having somebody move forward, always remember that. They're trying to look at you and ask themselves, how did you treat me last time? Did you hold true? Can I trust you? Do I believe I can move forward with you? Okay. Last couple of things. I always try to do like an inventory. Do the people I'm leading think I have their back? Do I feel understood? Is my perspective or who I am, my natural personality as part of the team and organization? And then finally, are my talents and gifts being utilized? Nothing worse than having a person that's really gifted or talented, and unfortunately, none of their strengths or gifts are being utilized. These are three areas to really create a lot of safety and certainty with your team. They know that you have their back. They feel understood from their perspective, from their vantage point. And then finally, they feel valued that you're going to use their strengths and gifts. And then last, this is from Situational Leadership with Ken Blanchard. During times of change in particular, where we're asking people to change, don't forget when people feel lost, they need really, really good direction. So with all the new things that are happening in change and people, switching jobs and coming into new organizations and moving from one place to the next, you need a lot more direction in the beginning when you're helping people. Just remember the simple thing is when you don't know where you're going, you turn on your GPS. When you do know where you're going, you turn off your GPS. So when somebody's new, the better you can do to setting those expectations, clarifying their roles, setting their goals, setting the timelines, creating an action plan for them, all these key things that help them know exactly how to navigate through your system in the very beginning, the more safe they'll feel, the more commitment they'll have, and the better you'll be able to increase their competency. That's a great model, by the way. It's called Situational Leadership 2. It's by Ken Blanchard. All of our leaders at Insperity go through that. Okay, so wrapping it up with 1 minute to go. You have a culture, and that culture is built around the stories that your people tell. You can put it on a poster, but as soon as your leaders interact with that poster, your employees have the ability to tell you whether that story is good or bad. If they feel safe, they're going to tell a good story. If they don't feel as safe, they're going to tell a bad story. The next piece is under change. Make sure you think about the unknown and the undetermined, and then use the stability factor of your values to help people move forward, okay, to decrease uncertainty. Because change happens all the time, we're always having conversations. We're always having people move forward in a direction. So remember, the decision has been made. When somebody challenges you, know yourself well enough so you can choose a breath, good breath, so that You can hear the new information that people are trying to share with you from their perspective, from their gifts, their talents, and then ask for input, adjust, take action differently, learn from what you're doing. And then finally, that's the prescriptive side. The last side is create an opportunity to know your people well enough so that as you do those trust things, tell your feedback story, share your values, all those critical things I just said at the end, you have an opportunity to build an organization where people are telling the story that you want to hear. Okay. All right. That's it. Leaders influence emotions, emotions drive people, and people drive performance. Might as well have the best performance possible from your people. Okay, that's it. Questions?
All right, Pete, that was amazing. Thank you so much. You can take a deep breath now.
eight technical difficulties, screen sharing, chat conversations. It's all good. I hope I at least shared some good information with you.
So we do have a question. At the personal level, how do you work with stakeholders when they're legitimate conflict of needs, when there's a legitimate conflict of needs?
You might want to maybe a little deeper than that. A legitimate conflict of needs. I'm not sure I understand what that means.
The person who wrote that question, can you clarify that a bit? But actually, let me do this. We're up on time. I don't know if folks can stay with us for a few more minutes. If not, we can end here and we can go into the networking table.
Yeah.
And have a further discussion. So why don't we do that?
Okay.
So I'm going to, before we go, I do want to ask if you have one resource that you could recommend for people to tap into that would help them build on what you've presented and either read, listen to, these topics and continue their journey to be a better leader.
I do want to try to figure that out too, though. So when they are a legitimate conflict of needs, I just employer need for competence, and so the employer's need for competence and the need to keep their job. Okay, so let me make sure this is right. So what you're saying is that as a leader, we need them to actually be able to do their job, competence, and they need to keep their job because they don't want to get fired. Is that right? Okay. Well, all right, good. So one of the great things about situational leadership, it actually takes you through a process that first helps you develop somebody's competence and commitment. And I think what a lot of business owners and especially leaders miss is that every time you change something in a process or a procedure, you actually end up changing the skill set, the knowledge, the task, the behaviors that you're looking for. So when we all got thrust into the virtual world, 2 years ago, there were people that didn't even know how to share their screen, much less turn on their video camera. Then we're asking them to use their tools and things like that in their virtual world. There was a huge learning curve. Almost every button on the Zoom, like this is a new platform for me, AirMeet. I've been presenting for 30 years and I had to get on here pretty quick. Now my transferable skills allowed me to do this pretty quick and I was able to learn pretty fast. But your real question is there a reason why if someone isn't competent, we need to keep them in our company? No, the answer is there are people that aren't suited for the job. And yeah, you might have to let somebody go. But if you're looking for a solution for that, a solution is train your leaders on how to build competencies. Now, remember, as a teacher, I would have 150 students, and I'd had kids walk into my classroom and say things like this: not only do I hate science, my parents made me take this class. So I didn't even have their commitment or their competency. And it's not like I get to interview them. I either get to figure out a way to help them or not. And one of the things to help people is you've got to be pretty good at preparing a system, a process to develop them. And that's a whole nother conversation. That might not be your expertise. It might not be your people's expertise. They might have been a good individual contributor. And yet when they had to go develop a plan to develop the other person, it's not their skill set. They're not good teachers. They're not good developers, not good facilitators. And so that person that had the ability, the transferable skills to succeed might not show the competency because they get so frustrated so quickly without a plan or a process to help them succeed. You get a really bad attitude from human beings. And then the next thing you know, you're like, well, they're incompetent. It might not be incompetence. It might be we don't have a good plan. So, but I'm not saying that if somebody is incompetent, you can't let them go. I think that's okay. All right. I don't know if that helped you.
Okay. Well, it looks like most everyone has stayed with us. So if anyone else has another question, please feel free to put it in the chat.
Yeah, this is your chance. I speak to companies every day. This is all I do. So you can ask me the hard questions. Like, no way. And I'll do my best. And if I don't know the answer, we have a huge company. That's all we do is try to help with these situations. So if
Pete, I'm curious about you were a teacher,
yep.
and I'm curious if you taught these kinds of things to students at the high school level, and what could schools be doing better to help people early on in their lives to develop these kinds of skills, right? Because
oh my gosh, well, you just asked the most important thing that I've ever that the whole reason I'm here is not because I'm some leadership expert. The whole reason I'm here is because my very first year as a physics and chemistry teacher, one of my students told me she wanted to commit suicide. And in that moment, 6 weeks into my very first year at 23 years old, I had a moment, I had a decision to make what kind of teacher I wanted to be. That young lady was actually competent. She was making an A in my physics class, but she did not want to live. She didn't like herself. I've spent my career trying to tell my students that their worth, whatever you have worth in, if you think something's worth something, how do you treat it? You treat it with respect. You treat it with kindness. If you think something doesn't have worth, how do you treat it? You throw it away. My entire reason for doing all this is to help you understand that when people know they have worth and they feel safe to be them, the next thing you know, you're going to get a lot more gifts and strengths. But when people, I literally had students that were surrounded by 3,200, I was at a big school and 3,200 other students, and they felt completely alone. It's very few things are about somebody's competency. A lot of the things we're dealing with are about how somebody's, remember, it's not personal, right? It's not personnel, it's personal. A lot of the things we deal with are how can I get my mom, my dad, my friend, this boyfriend, this girlfriend to like me? And one of the ways is that I'm going to go a little further now. If I broke down leadership into the two easiest ways, care for your people and be credible. That's it. So if people know you care about them, and secondly, they know that you're professional and can do your job, you're credible, you're going to have most of leadership taken care of. So as a teacher, my students, the number one thing that students said about me is, I don't know how that guy does it. 150 kids, and I think he's talking directly to me. He really cares about each one of his students. And then secondly, he really knows his subject. Become a professional. Become an absolute professional in your profession, in your subject, in your material. Don't wing it. So care and credibility.
Yeah. Glenn has a question about what group is more difficult to deal with.
What group? Yeah, I saw that. Okay. Hey, I'll tell you something, Glenn, really fast. I was sitting there. So from trying to help these kids know that they had worth, I created a camp, and I ran that camp for 20 years, 1997 to 2017. So I would teach these kids goal setting and personalities and relationships and self-image and, all these things that I'm sharing with you right now, emotional intelligence, all the stuff. And I got done with a camp one time, and a parent walked up and said, listen, I don't know what you're doing at your camp. It's really helping my child. I've got a bunch of children that work for me at work. They're called my employees. They're just big kids. Can you come share with them? And I'm like, I'm unqualified. I was 28 years old. I said, I'm absolutely unqualified to come speak to a group of adults. I barely even thought I was adult at 28. And yet this person was running a multi-million-dollar company. And the same principles that I shared with my students were the same principles I shared with you today. And neither are hard. It's kids can be hard. Managers can be hard. I can go in about 15 different directions on this. Kids are more open because they don't know as much. Managers are more jaded because they think they know everything. But I've worked with kids that think they know everything because they've had such a horrible life that horrible life is equivalent to you can't tell me anything. And really what they know how to do is get themselves into trouble. And because they know how to get themselves into trouble, they know that you have nothing to share with them because they've had it really, really bad. So I can go all day on these little moments like that, but that's 20 plus years of sitting by kids at a fire at 12 o'clock, eating s'mores, spending 5 days with them for 24 hours a day. And so
hopefully we can have you back for the next edition of this, because we could talk about this forever, right? It's such a huge topic.
Yeah.
But I've got to wrap it up here.
You're welcome.
And again, thanks, Pete. I do want to ask if you do have an answer to my question about one recommended book or podcast or resource to build on what you've shared here today.
Me personally?
Yes.
Yeah. So you're not going to be able to find it, but you go on, try to find it on Amazon and eBay or whatever. This is the book. And it's all jacked up now because I started reading it to my students in 1995.
Born to Win.
It's called Born to Win by Louis Timberlake. He was a mentor of mine. He just passed away several years ago. It's by, I think it's by Tyndale Publishing. It's not in print anymore, but you can still find it. And it will actually take you through the self-image. It will remind you of how powerful the self-image is, because when you know you have worth, that's what you're about to give away. And that'll help you with your customer service. That will help you with your leadership. That will help you not be personally offended every time somebody attacks you that you think they're attacking, and really they're just asking you information. It'll help you in so many different areas. It was written in the 90s, so the stories are going to be a little outdated. But the principles of self-image and setting goals and achieving, he would always say, you're born to win, but if you're not careful, this world will program you to lose. And so we need to be able to realize that we're born to win. We've got things that we can do. Okay.
Again?
Born to Win, Louis Timberlake. Louis Timberlake. Now, if you want some newer thoughts on that, The Go-Giver, Bob Berg, that's an older book as well. Simon Sinek's book recently, Leaders Eat Last, great discussion on what he learned from SEALs and from leaders in the military. Let me think of something just recently. You know what, you guys? I constantly go back to the classics of things that really help me. There was a great one on self-talk by Shad Helmstetter. Just look that guy up, ShadHelmst, Helmstetter, Stetter. Shad Helmstetter, real innovative thought process around self-talk and how what we say impacts how we see ourselves and what we do. There's just so much good stuff out there. And those are books that are, 10 years or more. But the more recent ones, always look up Daniel Pink, any of Daniel Pink's stuff when it comes to sales, Simon Sinek stuff when it comes to the why and leadership.
Good deal.
Yeah, okay. Brene Brown, Dare to Lead.
Love Brene Brown.
Yeah, they're all good. Find the people that speak to you, and then learn those principles and put them into practice.
All right, Pete. Thanks again. Really, really appreciate you being here with us, and that concludes everything for today. If everyone would like to stay for a little bit longer and network at the Insperity table, feel free. The room will be open until 1:30. Okay. All right, Pete, I'm going to sign out here, and great conversation, great presentation.
Thank you, Doug. It was my pleasure.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.